So, a lot of people wonder what will a relationship look like long term with a fearful avoidant attachment style. And in today's video, we are going to break down 5 harsh truths about dating a fearful avoidant. A quick disclaimer here, this is if somebody's not willing to do the work. This is if somebody is going to stay on autopilot, they're not going to attempt to gain insight, to grow, to take accountability. These are, for example, individuals who, unbeknownst to them, might be fearful avoidant attachment styles and not even know, right? So they don't even get the opportunity to do the work. Maybe they're still in that sort of stage of life where they're wondering, why are relationships so hard? Why are they so confusing, right? So this isn't how a relationship will be if somebody ends up doing the work and showing up for these things. But that's up to you if you are the partner or loved one of a fearful avoidant to vet for. Okay. And we talk about this. We're talking about the harsh truths of dating a fearful avoidant here in this video. We're doing one for each of the insecure attachment styles. And I'll say this just like I have for the other videos, which is, fearful avoidants can be amazing partners if they grow and heal. Right. So they can be, they bring a lot of good qualities as just a fearful avoidant, but they bring some hard things, right? The ones that we're going to talk about in this video here today. But if we can heal and become securely attached, we get to keep the superpowers of our attachment style, and each attachment style has them. For example, the fearful avoidant can be extremely present and deep, and they're so good at reading into people and reading between the lines and picking up on things so they can show up even better. They're very generous, they're very dedicated and determined. You get to keep those qualities, but then you get to have the warmth, the stability, the consistency, the ability to solve problems emotionally and relationally of a secure person if you do the work. But we need to be making sure, no matter who we're dating, that we are looking at their behaviors, not what they're going to say. So people can say, oh, I'd love to do the work one day. Oh, I know I have to heal. I know I have some work to do on my attachment style, but are they doing that already? Are they, reading books? Are they, establishing healthy routines? Are they doing subconscious reprogramming work, which is the most important thing to heal your attachment style, which we talk about all the time on this channel and in the personal development school? Are their actions and behaviors happening? Are they in counseling? Are they taking courses? Are they, if we have the actions, great, we're on a great track. But if somebody's just, saying, yeah, I'd love to do that one day and not coming to it, then you're going to see these harsh truths in the relationship being pretty present factors. Okay, so let's kick it off. Factor number 1, fearful avoidants love to operate by covert contracts and incidentally expect mind reading from their partners. So I'll just speak from personal experience on this one. I was a fearful avoidant before doing the work. And I absolutely lived by covert contracts. And what I mean is that I had these deep core wounds. So I had this deep sense of feeling unworthy and not good enough and not lovable for just who I was. And I felt like when I would connect to somebody and attach to them, like, oh my gosh, I have to basically over deliver on everything in the relationship so that this person sees my value, so that they see that they would want to be with me. And so I would like be overly generous. I would put so much pressure on myself to show up 10 out of 10 all the time. And that might sound like a good thing if you're the partner of a fearful avoidant, but it comes with some really serious consequences. And, these consequences were that I then assumed like, hey, I'm pouring in 10 out of 10. I'm trying to show up every day and do my absolute best. I'm putting all this pressure on myself. I'm showing up with no boundaries. You should be able to do the same. And so what this then created was, if people weren't operating by covert contracts, if they weren't codependent, then I would feel resentful, or I would feel taken advantage of, or I would feel really hurt and frustrated. And that would come out in different ways later. And I would essentially think like, oh, I try to kind of mind read your needs. You should be mind reading mine. So what happens is covert contracts often are rooted in somebody not feeling worthy enough as they are. And so they overdo it to try to compensate for their own internal sense of unworthiness. But with that comes this pressure and expectation that somebody else should show up to that same degree. And a lot of people, I think when we see like romantic comedy movies or things like this, we think, oh, but that's what people are supposed to do. No, securely attached people, what they do very effectively is they just openly, transparently share their needs. They don't try to like do 10 things here so then they can ask you for one here, or that you'll then get the hint that you should do the one. They'll just talk about needs openly and easily. And, as I evolved and became more secure, I was able to say like, hey, this is really important to me in a relationship. Can we work on this? What about you? What's important to you? And just have open, transparent conversation. And that allows you to deeply see and know each other much better, and then establish deeply healthy habits in a relationship to support each other in your truth, rather than let me do all the things and try to see which one works. And then we're playing these guessing games and we're not, actually being vulnerable and sharing what's on our mind or heart. And so you get stuck that way. Okay. So that's a huge thing for fearful avoidance. And unfortunately, until a fearful avoidant heals, sometimes their generosity and their like, pressure they put on themselves really ends up as resentment or frustration or triggering, feeling taken advantage of because they're literally taking advantage of themselves to try to please other people. And then sometimes they'll punish the person in the relationship for that later if they don't feel like the other person's doing the same thing. And it doesn't mean the other person should be. It means we should be having open, transparent needs, open, transparent conversations about our needs as a whole. Okay. So that is number one. Number two, flip-flopping in relationships. This is an obvious one, but fearful avoidance love to be very on, very all in one day and then completely, totally guess, second guess everything the next day. And I'll again speak from personal experience. When I was a fearful avoidant, what that looked like for me is that, and think of like a fearful avoidant, how you get conditioned, right? Your upbringing. Essentially, your upbringing is that you have really polarized experiences with love and connection. So, maybe you have a parent, let's just use an analogy or an example. There can be many different root causes for this, but this is a common one. Let's say you have a parent who's an alcoholic. Maybe one day they come home and they're drinking, but they're in a really good mood and they're loving and they're caring and they're kind. And you're like, whoa, I feel so connected. Love is a good thing. It's so safe. And it's such a beautiful experience. As a little child, right? You're having these like positive emotional associations to connection. And then let's say the very next day or even later that day, your parent keeps drinking and drinking, and then they're like really drunk and they're angry drunk. And now you all of a sudden are feeling like, wait, this person's scary. They're being so critical and mean and cruel and how they're speaking to me or how they're treating me. And you go from these like, really positive experiences to really negative and sometimes scary experiences. And so you get, these very confusing associations about love and connection. It's like love is a great thing, but love is a scary thing. And so what happens is that conditions your inner world and the way that you'll then perceive and understand love and connection externally. And that then takes you into a space where you will go through life thinking like, I really want this closeness. I really want this connection. And when people get too close, you'll be like, wait, this is now really scary. You could really hurt me because I really care about you. And so their internal world, it's very hard when you're on the receiving end of this, by the way, right? This is a hard thing to go through because sometimes it feels like everything's amazing and then the rug's pulled out from under you and you don't know what happened. But it's also very hard for the fearful avoidant to go through this because they, feel love and connection, but it's always bittersweet. It's like that love and connection is so wonderful and then it's so scary. And so they'll flip-flop back and forth. And also, they will have a lot of triggers over small things that will also cause the flip-flopping. So that really brings me to point number three, which is they have a lot of big triggers. And triggers are really rooted in what we call core wounds. And again, we talk so much on this channel, and it's to me, this is one of the most fundamental parts of becoming secure. Especially if you're a fearful avoidant, it's part of integrated attachment theory and the framework we use to help people become securely attached. And it's all about you have to rewire these core wounds that you picked up from childhood experiences. So I want to give you an analogy here because it's really important. And it's important to understand this if you are the partner of a fearful avoidant as well. But, imagine you go into the woods tomorrow and you see a bear and you run away from the bear and you're safe, but you have to walk back through the same path into the woods the next day. Well, when you're walking back through the woods and you hear like a rustling in the bushes or, you hear some sticks cracking in the distance, what's your mind going to do? Your mind is going to be like, oh my God, the bear, right? Because you just saw the bear before. And so we store that bear, the experience of the bear, and we reproject it. We think, okay, the bear could come here, the bear could show up because you're back on the same path. And what ends up taking place is you're reprojecting this fear. Now, if you as a child go through abandonment fears, betrayal wounds, feeling emotionally or physically unsafe in your upbringing, feeling trapped or helpless or powerless or unloved or unworthy, if these are, and those are all core wounds, if these are your big core wounds, what happens? Well, when you go back down the same path, the next time, the next time you're vulnerable in relationships with somebody else and as an adult, all those things are gonna get set off. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, where's the abandonment? Where's the betrayal? And you become hyper vigilant and you look for these things so frequently. And the reason this is happening is it's like the bear in the woods. You've stored the experience at a subconscious level and you're reprojecting it back out as an attempt to protect yourself from it. Okay, so this is what's going on. This is why it happens. But this is really also our relationship baggage. And until we learn to rewire it, then we're going to keep seeing ourselves having these core fears that actually are more likely to become self-fulfilling prophecies as long as they're alive. And so, again, I'm not going to get too far into this right now. I will say, if you want to do a deeper dive into this, like all of the personal development school, all of integrated attachment theory, everything we talk about on this channel is about how to rewire your attachment style at the subconscious level. Because the subconscious mind is responsible for 95 to 97% of all of your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and actions. Your conscious is only 3 to 5%. Unless you're doing the work at the subconscious level, your attachment style won't change. So we have a whole course called Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming. It's about reprogramming these different tools and triggers, and you can actually check it out fully for free. I still have 2 more points here of our hard truths about dating fearful avoidance, but you can check it out fully for free. And we do this twice a year. And May, we do it for Mental Health Month. So you can check it out fully for free just for the month of May. And it will give you the opportunity to really dive in there and, learn how to rewire your subconscious mind, how it actually works, the steps, the tools, our trademarked exercises to really dive into this. And again, it's fully for free. You have more than enough time to get through a couple courses, download all the materials, all that good stuff that will support you on your journey. So check out that link below. It will be there. Number 4, fearful avoidance, they will stonewall when they're triggered, and they will stonewall less pervasively than a dismissive avoidant, for example. But they will stonewall so much more intensely when they are triggered. Okay. So they will really, I'll tell you, when I was a fearful avoidant, what I used to feel is when I would feel triggered, I would feel so much intense triggering and just like fear and frustration that when I was triggered, all I would feel in particular cases would be like, I need to get as far away from this person as possible so that I don't have to feel the way I'm feeling right now. And as I started doing work on myself in those early days at the time, I realized like, oh, I'm trying to push this person away as an attempt to push the internal pain away. But this person's a catalyst for the pain. They aren't necessarily the cause of the pain, right? That something might trigger me in the moment, but that might actually be a small thing. And it's bringing up a whole bunch of big unresolved experiences from my past. And so I have to take responsibility and go in and heal those things up and rewire those triggers and those fears that are coming up for me. Because until I do, relationships are going to be hard to function in, right? Relationships are always going to be things where, let's say I have all this betrayal trauma as a child, and then somebody does something small as a betrayal as an adult, like they tell a white lie or something. And not that I'm saying lying is okay, but just, if you date somebody for years and they say, oh, some small white lie that they tell you, oh, I like that dress. And then later they're, oh, I didn't like that dress, whatever it is, right? Just people are going to make mistakes sometimes. But as a fearful avoidant, when things like that happen, that stirs up all of the subconsciously stored past experiences of when you felt betrayed. And now you have all that emotion flooding to the surface because that's how the subconscious mind works. It's a big warehouse that stores everything. And so you then end up in a situation where you're so triggered about a seemingly small thing, and that can cause you to just shut down so strongly and intensely and really ice out. And that doesn't actually help to solve the problem or work through the issue. And some of that is maybe 5% is the issue in front of you, and 95% is the past unresolved issues that your subconscious is still storing. So we have lots of videos on this channel about how to rewire your subconscious mind. And again, that course is just like the fastest way to dive into that. Last but not least, a lot of fearful avoidants, when they're triggered, don't realize how often they communicate through criticism. So there's this old saying, behind every criticism is a need. And fearful avoidants will often communicate by saying, you don't ever do this, you always do that. And again, it's really a reflection a lot of the time of them not communicating their needs in healthy ways, because we often, when you are fearful avoidant, you don't feel worthy of communicating needs. You don't assume anybody will show up for them. It's almost like an unknown. And then you think you're communicating through your criticism, and that's not real communication. There's almost no point of communicating if it's going to come through a critical lens, because people just hear that you're criticizing them. They don't hear what your need is or what you're going through. And so again, healing for that has a lot to do with being able to be vulnerable and know your needs and know who you are, and be comfortable being vulnerable enough to share them. So those are the 5 harsh truths. Now, if you want to learn more about this, if you have questions, let me know down below. I'll create more content accordingly. Make sure if you enjoy this video, you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I put daily content out here every single day, so that if you ever need a resource or just support in any way, it's there on a regular basis. But let me know any future videos you want to see, and I will be sure to create them. Thank you for watching and for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.